All right, welcome. It is now the second live viewing of Jay Beav's World here with myself and Jay as we are live now a little after 6 p.m. And we thank you guys all for tuning in, for carrying over from Rich, the drive with Q from 4 to 6 p.m. Then right after us, we'll be talking hoops from 8 to 9 p.m. As I said, Mondays and Wednesdays are the longest days here on the Coastal Sports Network. We appreciate everybody who's tuning in. Of course, I am Angel Martinez. He is Jay Flannelly. And we have just, let's see, boy, the elimination, obviously, of the Astros, Jay, which was pretty big by Detroit there. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Astros wanted to get in. As Rich said, he didn't want to face them as the Yankees. I sure as heck didn't want to face them if the Phillies get that far. I mean, it's still a long stretch. They still wait for the division series to start. But Astros are done. It's the first time in a long time. It seems like forever for the Astros to be exited out early on in the wild card series.
Yeah, the injuries with their pitching, and they had a rough start. Similar to my Mets, they had a really bad first couple months and kind of lit it up. But great credits to the Tigers. Tigers have gotten red hot over the last 45 games or so. Three scorable goal in the first game, and then the second game they had. The way the Tigers play. If you're not familiar with them, they basically have one full-time starting pitcher, Screwball, and then they move a bunch of pitchers around like they did today. And Montero's a kid who pitches. He starts once in a while. Maeda did for a while. The Dylan, the other pitcher, Reese Olson's another one, but they had some injuries, and they traded Jack Flaherty. So they kind of pieced it together, and this is kind of what Tampa Bay did for years with the openers and different things, and mixing and matching. You saw Jackson Jobe, the kid who came in and gave up a couple runs. He's like the best prospect in baseball. One of the things, just as a Michigan person in perspective, got to give great credit to Hunter Brown, who a CMU kid, Central Michigan kid. He pitched his ass off. Astros just had too many injuries, Justin Verlander and other people, and they've lost people like George Springer over the last couple of years, and guys like that. This is a team on the decline. And teams like the Royals, the Tigers, the Orioles are taking off and ascending. Cleveland also is another one. But like you said, just a tremendous team. The Astros run here. Bregman's going to be a free agent. He's as good as gone. He might actually end up on Detroit. But it's interesting to see, you know, when changing the guard type of thing, and it doesn't happen that obvious in football, but you see what happens here when a team kind of goes across and falls apart on you in a big series like that. What a job by the Tigers in their mix and match lineup. You know, AJ Hinch and that staff. Two of my good U of M buddies are coaches on that staff. The pitching coach and one of the hitting coaches. So, congrats to the Tigers and their fans. I mean, it's a good thing. It's good to be in Detroit right now with the Lions, the Fighting Dan Campbells, and now the Tigers just taking off and just being really really good and a nice story. And I don't know if it's sustainable the way they play with the pitching and everything, but it's really interesting to see it and just see them come through and beat an experienced team like that and beat them pretty quickly. The with the Screwballs game, you kind of expected that was going to happen, and the Astros pitcher with his bad history in the postseason actually added to it. So it is what it is, but pretty amazing stuff when you look at it. And just, but it's hard to make the playoffs in the postseason. I thought my Mets had a great year, and they fell in there at the end. It's amazing when you look at this, and it's very hard. It gives you great respect for teams like the Braves and the Yankees, who just do this all the time. And the Braves let Freddie Freeman go, and they signed a guy who's a good comp for him. So it's amazing when you think about it and how hard it is to do this. And the Mets a couple years ago won 101 games, and they didn't win the division. And Angel, you're an example too with your Phillies, how competitive and hard it is to win that division. you guys won the division, but a big part of why you won it is all the injuries to the Braves.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, just Acuna and Stradler. I mean, the defending Cy Young champion. Um, you know, tearing up his elbow and he's out for the year. And it's crazy when you think about it. But my team, they got 6 innings all year out of Senga, our ace pitcher. And they moved off Scherzer and Verlander, rightfully so. They're both falling apart physically. But it is what it is. But yeah, playoff baseball is completely different. My boys are playing at 7:30. So we're excited, to have something to see and watch and share for. It's a good thing for me and you because the NL East it makes you have to spend and build their team. The Nationals had their run and then they kind of sold some guys off and Strasburg got hurt. Incredibly they won after Bryce Harper left, which is insane when you think about it because you clearly know how good Bryce Harper is because he's like the best player on your team. Probably either he or Trey Turner. But you lose a quality player like that, and it's kind of like the Red Sox. They traded Nomar and they won the World Series. But it's funny. Baseball is a very funny sport. You have great players like Ted Williams, Barry Bonds, and Carl Yastrzemski, who don't have any championships. Some of the guys like Louis Soho and Aubrey Huff, and guys that are Nunuk of the North type guys, and nothing special about them. And they got multiple World Series and things like that. And Mike Piazza didn't win, and guys like that, and just historic players. Um, you know, it's crazy. And we were talking the other night when Pete Rose died.
Yeah.
Pete Rose historically, for what value of the player, because he's a leadoff guy, he didn't have a lot of power, didn't steal base, but he's a winning player. And I think he had the most wins ever as a player. I was talking about that stat. And obviously the hitting, and he played like 6 or 7 positions. He was never Ozzie Smith in any of them, but he was good. And he was just a pain in the ass. He's a winning player. And it's hard to – how do you compare that player to – I mean, I compare him to Derek Jeter because if you watch Derek Jeter on a consistent day-to-day basis, his value. But how do you compare him to Barry Bonds or Johnny Bench or, Don Mattingly and some of these other guys? Because the game is different for each guy. And that's one of the things that I think has really happened with football is, hey, you're a corner. Okay, can you play over the slot? Oh, you can't. So can you cover kicks? Can you do this? The more things you can do, as Belichick says all the time. So it's interesting. The games in sports have become so specialized. You have, pitchers that lefty only guys and 7th-inning guys and spot starters and left-handed pinch hitters and things like that. The game is, if you can do something really well, he's a really good coach now in the NBA. But Steve Kerr, he played forever and he won championships, I believe, with 3 different teams because he would just jack up threes. He had a nice little role for himself. And then somebody like Reggie Miller, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, they never won. And you got guys like Steve Kerr and Robert Horry winning titles. Like they fall out of bed and they win a title. So, it's amazing when you think about the way the world is.
It is. You talked about which the one thing it makes you wonder. I don't know if it's gonna happen or not. And as far as with Justin Verlander, I know what's that?
He's gonna retire.
You think?
Without question.
That's kind of like the feeling I have as well. But is he? Do you think he really has like that one more left in him that he wants that one more ring, or is he's fine?
Okay, so I'm a good analysis of this. I'm 52 years old. I don't make $25 million, whatever Verlander makes. But on a day-to-day basis, what I have to do to get up and walk, I got a bad knee. My entire left leg is bad. My left shoulder's been destroyed for years, but my left shoulder's so bad it doesn't even hurt anymore. My right elbow is gone. My back's bad. I mean, but I get up and do it every day.
Right.
Justin Verlander has a lot of money in the bank. He's got a supermodel wife. I believe he's got kids now. He's got things to do. So, and he's won a World Series. It's not like he's, Kurt Schilling, with the Diamondbacks and then with the Red Sox, where he's trying to win for the Red Sox. So I think it gets to the point where you have to ramp up and amp up to play. It's
Mhm.
very similar to what Tommy went through at the end of his career
Yeah.
in the NFL. It wasn't that Tom didn't want to play on Sundays. It was the price and toll he had to sacrifice, he had to make for his family and his life to be there and play on Sunday. And he tried, his last year, he was on the Buccaneers. He had the personal thing going through his marriage and everything. And it took away his preparation and it was a distraction because, believe it or not, these guys are human beings. They do have lives and things at home.
Correct.
And people forget that. And, Michael Jordan with his dad dying and things like that. So I think you look at it, what do I gain by playing anymore? He's got to work full time to try and play. And is Justin Verlander going to be what he was 4 or 5 years ago? No. So it's going to be harder for him to do that. And I just don't think it is. I love watching him pitch, but I have a hard time believing he's going to do the Frank Tanana thing and what Pedro Martinez was able to do over the second part of his career, where he wasn't throwing, 99 anymore, and he learned how to pitch. And you throw in a different way. Like Frank Tanana was JV Nolan Ryan. They played on the Angels together. He was throwing 100. He blew out his arm. Then, the next 10 years of his career, he was getting guys out at 88, 90 miles an hour because he knew how to pitch. He basically went from being Nolan Ryan to Greg Maddux. And it worked for him. It's amazing when you understand and look at this because I stand behind home plate a lot at Michigan's games and when I go to baseball games. You look at Mariano Rivera, who threw one pitch, caught like 95% of the time. The guy on the Giants, Sergio Romo's another one. He throws like 75, 80% sliders. I don't even know how the hell he has an arm. Yeah, Rick, you don't want any of my body parts. My body is gone, buddy. So, no, I didn't even go over. I have 400 stitches in my face.
Good Lord.
So, yeah.
Wait, hold on. Slow down. How did you get 400 stitches?
One of them was 200 plus from getting hit in the face by a hockey puck.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I'm blind in one eye. So, there you go. I'm blind in one eye, Angel. Angel blessing. There you go, baby.
Yeah,
so
no kidding. Good.
Yeah, don't get in front of a puck with your face. There's the lesson of the day, kids.
Yeah.
Don't block his shot with your face.
So was that?
I didn't really plan that, by the way. That's a whole other story. But, yeah, that was bad. That was a bad one, and there were a couple other ones, but little ones here and there. It's like a shaving cut, Angel.
Yeah. Yep.
I said that with a straight face, by the way.
Those are the dumbest.
It's funny because when I get the stubble going, I got it going. You can see some of the scars. It's one of the perks. But yeah, I've done some things in my life, Angel. That's all I'm gonna say.
Goodness gracious.
My nose has been busted like 5 times. So my face looks like a middle linebacker because I was a linebacker, so that's part of it. But yeah, it is what it is.
So it's
never a dull moment, Angel. Never a dull moment.
I bet, because that's like them stories, Jay, when people say like, oh yeah, I remember when we went to Vietnam and we hopped over, like my dad's got this long running joke and until the one day he got called out, but not really called out. So my dad, he ended up buying some, okay, let me backtrack a little bit. He did go to Vietnam, but when he got there, his orders were cut to come right back. He said he has no idea how in the world it happened, but he basically flew there, came back. Well, he bought his Vietnam veteran hat, I think from Goodwill. And the one day he was walking around and he says, now he did spend 33 years in the United States Army before they told him to get out finally after, being there for a long enough time. But he walked in there and this, somebody said, well, thank you for your service. How was it in Vietnam? And he was telling me, he says, I didn't know what to say. So I said, well, where the fence was and it was okay. And he says he came up with like a quick minute story. And the lady was like, wow, that sounds pretty amazing. So I said, the next time somebody calls you on that story, you better tell a good one, or you better watch an old movie to tell them exactly the way it was. But it's been a long running joke with him. But my dad, thank God he's still alive to this day. But 33 years in the in the military, it'll get to you as well. But the reason why I bring that up too, because you were talking about those little nicks that you get on your face. How is it, especially like above your nose or just below your nose? Excuse me. Where it's that small little goofy nick,
Yeah,
and it seems like it bleeds on forever. It makes no sense to
yeah.
me.
So I got hit playing basketball like right around here once,
Right?
and that was weird. But you're right. Certain points in your face, like my nose. I mean, I don't have much cartilage left, and I mean my nose is. I mean, I look like Teddy Bruschi and I have the same beak basically, and we also have the same agent, which is funny. Brad Blank. I gave Brad a plug. So no, it is just what it is. Uh, Yeah, see, I'm wearing a Mets shirt because I've exactly. Yeah, that's why I prove I'm tough. I wear a Mets shirt. Uh, so no, it is. Live the life, Angel. No, not many regrets, just a few. Too
Yeah.
few to mention. Don't make me go Frank Sinatra. I'm about to go Frank Sinatra on you.
No, but listen. You can't live life without regrets, right? If you're going all in, you're going all in. Period. We had talked about it earlier. Rich brought up
Yeah,
in his show, The Drive with Q, is that we've everybody's been a mistake in their life, no matter which way you look at it. And we've also done things that if you in the moment, what do you say? Like, screw it, I'm not regretting this. I'm just going full steam ahead and see what happens. It's the same way with me in the military. When I'm at a recruiting station. And
sure,
here the staff sergeant telling me, he goes, "Hey, you like that?" And we're passing by, and there was a picture of airborne wings. And I said,
sure.
"Yes, Sergeant." Now I'm saying it like I'm agreeing with him. Like, yes, I like I like the airborne picture that I was seeing in the background. So he goes, "Come on." So we walk in the office. He goes, "Sign this soldier up." I'm like, "Wait, what?" So I leave from Fort Hood, Texas, to go up to AIT up in Fort Leonard Wood, to then go across down to Fort Benning to go to jump school. And I thought this was what he was talking about. Like, have I lost my mind? But I never regret it. Not one time to ever regret it. But the funny part is that the whole entire time during training, I'm not paying attention. Every time we go in the tower, so you go in the tower, you do a makeshift jump before you actually go inside the C-130. Well, as we're walking towards the C-130, here I'm thinking like, this is going to be great. I'm going to be the last guy out. I'm going to watch everybody jump. And then as we're getting closer and closer towards the bird, I'm like, no, dum dum, you're the first one out. So you're going to see the door open and the ground going beneath you. And sure enough, we got out there, and my eyes had opened up. I mean, extremely wide. And so the jump master said, "Are you right there, Martinez?" I said, "Yes, Sergeant." He goes, "You look like you've seen a ghost already." So we haven't even gone up wheels up yet. I said, "Hey, Sergeant, I was just thinking about the whole entire time that I was the luckiest guy because I was going to be the last one out." He goes, "And you're a dumbass too, huh?" "Yeah, you're the first one out." I'm like, listen, I just realized that. So when the door comes open, you see the ground beneath you just flying right by. But again,
Yeah.
no regrets. I was able to jump well over 70 times, and I lived to tell about it. And I'm freaking I live with absolute zero regrets.
You did something, Angel, I will never do. You voluntarily jumped out of a plane.
Sure did. And a helicopter.
You couldn't put a number with enough zeros next to it to get me to do that. I
It's
know I have a severe allergy to heights. I don't like heights, so it's not my thing.
That's just like my dad. My dad cannot go up 3 rungs on a ladder, or him and the ladder will shake uncontrollably. It's
Yeah,
absolutely
I mean
crazy.
I'm not that bad, but I traditionally don't like heights.
I
It's
did.
just it's just not my thing.
See, I didn't.
And
I guess I didn't mind it.
I've gotten better with flying. I've gotten better with flying.
Right.
I've been traveling a lot more over the last like 7 8 years, but I never was a big travel guy. But yeah, it's crazy. But
Yeah.
no, we got a big show tonight. We got a great guest coming on, longtime friend of mine, and he's covering a team that's constantly in the news. They're in the Devontae Adams thing. We had to blow up the press conference today, and anytime you have Aaron Rodgers around, he's like a own little sitcom. So he's just always something going on with the Jets. And Rich and I are both Mets fans, so we were texting about this last night when they were winning. I have my own little circle of Mets friends. Uh, so where it's like a group hug thing we do, the Mets fans. So excited, but it's been it's a fun time of year because for you and I, baseball, football, hockey is about to start.
Yep.
So it's exciting. It's a wonderful time for me. I was down at Michigan baseball practice today. They're doing fall ball practice, and I went and saw the guys playing and practicing, which is cool. Great weather here today. We're not going to have this much longer. 65, 70, and they put the Tigers game on the jumbotron at the stadium, which is cool. But no, it's fun, and it's I can't thank you and Pete enough for bringing me on. This is a lot of fun and
Well,
exciting. Get to bring in a lot of my friends. Some of them are famous, some of them aren't, and I'm very blessed. I have a lot of great people around me, so I'm very lucky.
yeah, it's gonna be a fun time. I'm looking forward to your guest for sure. Ray Samini, who's coming on with us here, who covers the Jets, who's gonna be a great time. Is obviously Devontae Adams being the super hot topic of the NFL day, as I mentioned a lot this morning on Martinez and Company. But yeah, listen, what can we say without the drama when it comes to the NFL? It's just the way it is. The Jets themselves, Aaron Rodgers. I'm pretty sure he will love Devontae Adams for sure. So we'll get into
Yeah,
it
but
on the ring.
we'll talk about that with Rich. But I'm not sure. Is that what the Jets need?
No, I
Yeah, I
don't think
mean,
so.
but again, it's the Jets. They just do stuff. I
They
mean, they
do,
just
but
they
they
just
do.
do stuff.
Yeah, they do. But it's well, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, who knows what he wants anymore? I don't even think
I
he
mean,
wants
if he showed up at practice tomorrow and told uh, the Jets he's quitting and he's going to go be a Tibetan monk, would they be surprised?
not at all. Good point, but not at all. It's
I
true
mean,
though.
that's the Jets' fault
Yeah,
for getting into that. You know, are they? They're not the New York Jets anymore. They're the Aaron Rodgers team,
correct.
and at one time he was really good. I think he's kind of let himself go, and it is what it is. But he's a severe pain in the ass. I mean, the story about the cadence came up over the weekend. And Aaron, that's why you go to mini camps and OTAs to work on this stuff. I have a pretty good relationship with a guy who's got 7 rings, and he was breaking COVID protocols to practice with his guys, famously down in Tampa when he went to the Buccaneers in 20,
Right.
and flying guys in and recruiting Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, Leonard Fournette, and you know, mistakenly going to the next door neighbor's house of his quarterback coach, Byron Leftwich. That's another great story. He went to the wrong house, and it wasn't Byron's house. And he was on the couch, and the guy came in and saw Tommy on the couch. Uh, but no, it's this sport in this league. I mean, I talked about Tommy yesterday. I mean, on Monday, excuse me. He's been in 10 Super Bowls. He could easily be 9-1 or 1-9.
Yeah.
It's that big a difference in it's like 1% play. The Malcolm Butler play, the two Adam Vinatieri kicks, the David Tyree play, the Mario Manningham play, Dante Hightower strip sack in the Atlanta Super Bowl. About 17 plays in a 2017 game. It's all there. And you need to be tremendously opportunistic and lucky at the same time, and get out there and consistently do good things in a good situation when the opportunity is provided to you. I mean, the Malcolm Butler play, everybody's seen and talked about, but they don't talk about is he's the guy who gave up the bomb to get down there. He could have sat there and moped and bitched, and he didn't. He remembered practice. He and Brendan Browner made one of the greatest plays in the history of sports, let alone the Super Bowl in games. And and again, in '07, Tommy didn't play good. The O-line didn't play good. But Rodney Harrison had a chance to make a play. Asante Samuel had a chance to make a play. They didn't make it. And we lost. So it's just, those are great players. Tommy's a great player. Logan Mankin's a great player. Randy Moss is a great player. Rodney Harrison, Asante, they didn't make a play. They had a chance and they didn't. Now, a lot of times they did. Clearly, the number 12 guy was pretty good. But, it just wasn't our day. And credit Gomer Pyle and the Giants. They did it. So, it is what it is. But I probably think about that game every day in my life. So just like a certain friend of mine does, and he admitted to it. But it is what it is. We got 7.
Would it be,
I think the Giants as a total have 4. So it's
would it,
yeah,
what
7
are,
to 4. 7 to 4. You can add Peyton in there, 7 to 6.
yeah.
So It is what it is. Throw Arch in there too. Zero. The Actually, I don't think Archie ever made the playoffs. I think that's a
I don't think
stat,
he
isn't
did.
it? Archie, I don't think ever made the playoffs. He was league MVP one year. Didn't even make the playoffs. I think 1977 he was the league MVP. Didn't make the playoffs.
And what is it
Archie.
now? It's the is it the nephew who's now in college?
Okay, so yeah, his nephew. Yeah, he's Quinn Ewers' backup. Arch Manning. He's
Right.
Cooper's son. Cooper's the oldest of the Manning brothers. He
Okay.
was a wide receiver. He's roughly my age. He and I were in camps together. He was a freak show. He was like Cooper Cup. He was like his dad. He was a super athlete. He wasn't a quarterback like Peyton and Eli were. He was a receiver, and he was like Cooper Cup. He was a freak show, and he broke his neck, and he had to retire. And he was at Ole Miss like his dad. But the amazing thing about him is, much like his mother, Olivia, really good business sense, very sharp, like his dad, very successful businessman. He owns a whole bunch of different businesses, including the Graduate Hotels chain we got here in Ann Arbor. Here comes my man Rich. I see him coming.
Yep.
So, oh, there he is.
Welcome, welcome. It is Rich Cimini joining us here on the Coastal Sports Network, Beav's World, which you guys can listen in on Monday and Wednesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. And Rich, first of all, thank you for coming on the show. And which Jay, of course, was singing high praises of how many years you've been with ESPN, number one. But the other thing, which is the hot topic that we've all been dying to know, because not only is Aaron Rodgers and all his quirkiness and what goes on with him, it's also now the Davante Adams, I guess, official day, as it's getting hotter and hotter with the talk with Davante Adams.
Yeah, first of all, love the Mets, rocking the Mets stuff. That's awesome. Let's
That's
go
Rich.
Mets. Yeah, the Jets are in hot pursuit of Devontae Adams. I think they'll be one of the more aggressive teams trying to get him, and I don't think it's going to. It's not imminent. I don't think it's going to happen before this weekend's games. It may take a couple of weeks. It may go right up to the trade deadline, November 5th. But if I were a betting man, I would bet that the Jets end up with Devontae Adams.
Wow.
So, and who?
Wow, Rich breaking news.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
think.
just good news. It's kind of like a gut feel thing
Okay.
based on
So, yeah.
some
So,
information.
Rich, before we'll go back to this, but I always do this with my guests. You're my first guest on this segment of Bees World and this show on Bees World. How do you end up in Bees World, Rich?
How did I end up here?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what you should be saying. Exactly.
I don't know how I
I
ended
don't
up
see any guards around you with guns, so I'm assuming you're a goodwill. So
I don't know how I ended up here. We met a few years ago, right, on the Michigan campus, and
yep, because
my
your
son,
kids went to school here. Yep,
yep,
at
my son Matt,
Pizza House. Yep.
yep,
I think Ian O'Connor sent you to me, if
yes,
I
that's
remember
right.
Oh
correctly.
wow.
Okay,
Ian
so
O'Connor
yeah,
was our connection, and I went down on State Street, and
yeah,
actually, it was the Pizza House.
yep.
Probably was the Pizza House, and
Where I still work. By the way.
yeah, I miss Ann Arbor. I haven't been there. My
We
son
miss
graduated.
having you here, buddy. You're a great. You're a great customer. We love having you. So
Yeah,
I always do this with Rich because he's been with the team over 30 years.
Okay.
So I try to name all the coaches that Rich has covered, and I do that. He's laughing already. Okay, so I believe you started with Walt Michaels.
no, one after, one after.
Okay. So that's Joe Walton. I'm going to try to
Yes.
do this right. Joe Walton, Bruce Coslet, Rich Kotite, Bill
No,
Parcells.
yep, you missed one.
Between Rich Kotite and Pete Carroll. I'm
Yep,
sorry,
Pete
Pete
Carroll.
Carroll between Coslet. It was Coslet, Carroll, Kotite.
Yeah,
Then Tuna,
right.
uh, Algro, Mangini,
No, you
Rex
missed one.
Ryan,
No,
Rex
you missed,
Ryan,
you missed one after Mangini.
Todd Bowles.
You play to win the
The game.
game.
Oh, Herm. I knew that.
Yeah,
Herm. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Herm, Eric Mangini, Todd Bowles, Rex Ryan,
The other way,
Porsala.
the other way around. It
Oh
was
no, okay. I'm mixing them up.
okay.
And poor Robert Sala.
And Robert Sala.
And did I miss anybody?
No, you got them all.
Do I get bonus points for saying Lou Holtz used to coach the Jets?
Lou Holtz, but he didn't make it through a whole year. He quit with like a
Yeah,
game or
because he was
two.
trying to run the veer in the NFL.
Yeah, well, that
His
didn't work.
quarterbacks wouldn't have made it through the year either.
Yeah, Joe Namath told me some stories about Lou Holtz, but yeah, that didn't
Okay,
last long.
so Rich, just so to get over, how many coaches is that you have covered?
I don't know how many you named. Well, you didn't count Bill Belichick. He was the coach for like a minute.
Oh yeah.
He
See,
was the coach.
Angel's laughing.
Yeah, he was the
He
coach
was
for
a
a
coach for
minute.
like 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 or 3 minutes. But
You were
yeah,
at that press conference. You were at that press conference, right?
yeah, I was at the famous press conference where he quit.
Was that one of the funniest things you've ever seen?
I think surreal is the word I would use there because that was the day he was supposed to be coronated. You know, he
Of
was being
course.
replacing Parcells, who retired, and
Yes.
then Bill.
Like Parcells retired.
Yeah, then Belichick was supposed to be introduced to the media, and when he got up to the podium, instead of saying "Thank you, I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to this job," he said the exact opposite. He said, "Sorry, I'm going to quit." I'm going to leave the organization. So that's not what you expected on that day.
Okay, so the other one, because you brought up Herm, you played to win the game. It was
Right.
Judy Batista who asked him the question, correct?
Yeah, that is very correct. Yep.
And she, because I know who she is because of her Mets connections
Yeah.
and baseball connections. But I always cracks me up every time I see Judy on NFL Network that I
Yeah.
think of you play to win the game, and it cracks me up.
Well, they were
But no,
playing. They were in
yeah,
a
go ahead.
losing streak, and the season was, the season was just dying, and they were going to San Diego, and she asked him about whether she's worried about players quitting on the season, and that kind of touched a nerve for her.
No, really?
That's when he went off on his famous rant, which
You
became
play to win the game. Hello,
a beer commercial.
hello.
Yeah.
I love Herman. If you didn't know, Rich, I love Herman Edwards.
You know the weird thing about that, Beav? That was not a big story in the New York papers the next day after Herm made that speech, because
So how did it become such a big deal?
I think social media. Social media. This was back in 2002, I believe, and there was no
Right about
social
when
media.
Tommy started playing. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was not a big story at all in the New York papers, and I think it wasn't until weeks and months later that it started really picking up momentum.
So before we talk about the current team, I've got to also ask you about the day the Bledsoe got hurt in 01. I believe it was September 23rd, 2001.
I was
I think
there.
that's the exact date because 2 days later, Tommy got named the QB.
Yeah.
Were you at the game?
Yeah, I was at the game.
Okay. Now, initially, where were you when Bledsoe got hurt?
I was in the press box, and we saw the hit. I mean,
It was unbelievable.
You knew it was a vicious hit. The game was really secondary for us because New York media. It was a whole 9/11. It was the first game after 9/11. Sure. And I'll never forget this, though. As I was coming out of the Jet locker room, walking back up to the press box in that dumpy old stadium, you had to walk out. You had to walk outside to get back to the press box. And I remember seeing them wheel Bledsoe on a gurney into an ambulance. And I said to myself, "Wow, that injury must be pretty serious." They're taking him in an ambulance, and then we later found out,
he
years later. I mean, he almost died.
He lost like half the blood in his body. Yeah.
Yeah. So
if he doesn't listen to Ron O'Neal, the Patriots trainer, and this is well documented now, Ron went to him and said, "Hey, why don't we go get you checked out?" He's like, "No, I want to go to the team prayer." And Ron made him come with him. If he doesn't go with Ron, he dies.
Yeah, he has bleeding in his
like you said, the other thing, Richard, it's a great point by you about the old stadium. The old stadium wasn't near a hospital. They had to go to Boston in an ambulance, and it was Bledsoe and his younger brother, Adam, who played quarterback of Colorado. And it's been well documented now, and it's just amazing. And you know this, Rich, because you and I have talked about this, and Angel, you share this too. I love Drew Bledsoe. I loved him then. And it's just a weird thing for me. The entire year was weird because one of my best friends is replacing Drew. and Drew was good, really cool in how he handled it, and he was great. But Tom wasn't a big deal. Drew was one of his best buddies on the team, and he took his job. And
Yeah.
it was a weird circumstances and situations. But I could
Yeah.
psychoanalyze myself. It could do 300 hours on me. But no, it's just the way it is, and it's amazing, Rich, when you look at your career and what you've covered and what you've been part of. You played to win the games. A silly little thing became a big deal, and the butt fumbles another one. And
Yeah.
there's a million of these things. The Jumbo Elliott game with I was it Vinny Testaverde who was playing QB?
Yeah.
The Jumbo Elliott catch Monday night game. Yeah, just
Yeah.
so many memorable things. I mean, I make fun of the Jets all the time, but I always think about you. You have to cover this circus. And, we just talk about Davante Adams. So where are the Jets now? Obviously a tough loss on Sunday. I think they're the only team in the league not to score 10 points in the game. I saw that stat on the herd today.
Yeah.
Where are the Jets right now? Where are they right now, Rich?
It's so interesting. A week ago, the Jets were riding high on a 2-game winning streak, and we were asking
Yes.
players about how they were going to handle prosperity. And now, a week later, the sky is falling and the season's over. So
I know.
we overreact. In the NFL media. I mean, we all do it. I'm guilty of it too. It was a really bad loss against Denver. There's no doubt about it. And now they have a really tough game this week. They're playing undefeated Minnesota in London. And
Sure.
they're in a really tough spot right now.
We just talked about Davante Adams coming to the team. Is that really a big need for the Jets with Lazard and Wilson and some of their other receivers coming in there and doing Mike Williams coming back? Is that really a big need, or are they just pacifying Aaron Rodgers again?
A little of both. I mean, I wouldn't say it is a big need. I would say it's a need. Wilson's a good player. Now, he's off to a slow start, but he's a good player. I think he'll get it, turned it on.
Really bad college, though, Rich. Really bad college.
Yeah. I joke about that with Garrett a little bit, but Mike Williams.
So for those of you who don't know, Garrett Wilson went to the second place finisher in the Big Ten the last 3 years, Ohio State.
That is true. That is true.
I think I just got Rich killed at practice tomorrow, by the way, but that's okay.
Their receiving core is okay now, but Davante Adams is a really good player, and we know the quarterback loves him, and the quarterback carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Angel. Go ahead.
Rich, he had mentioned Davante Adams had mentioned before, apparently on a podcast, saying that a black head coach makes a bigger difference with the Patriots in New England than it did with the Raiders out there in Vegas. And he was saying it because he was saying, iconic teams like the Patriots, who people probably would never seen, for example, a black head coach going up there. And then Robert Kraft wanted Gerard Mayo, obviously former NFL player for the Patriots, but he made a valid point because he said it wasn't about racism, which again, it was kind of like Davante Adams' day, but he said it wasn't about racism or anything else. He just felt that Gerard Mayo would make a bigger impact in the NFL as a black head coach because of, again, just the status of New England. I mean, we've never heard of anyone, thinking about, and it's nothing against, because I don't want people to get this, twist any kind of way.
I know what you're saying.
Right, but New England, New England probably never thought about it back in the day. And then you leave, when Belichick left, everybody was wondering, like, who's going to come up there next? So he makes a good point with Gerard Mayo. And then, of course, now he has the whole thing with Jacoby Brissett. He's got to figure out if that's going to be the future for him, or as everybody wants, is Drake May. But kind of detouring back to Davante there for a second as well, is where Davante, I was kind of surprised where I did hear that maybe the New Orleans Saints, he was saying that could be a possible destination, I guess, because of Derek Carr. Would it make
his best friend, his college quarterback? Yeah, his college quarterback and buddy.
Right. So would it make more sense for him and New Orleans better than Davante in New York?
Yeah, I mean, the Saints, I don't know how interested the Saints are going to be. He is obviously interested in the Saints,
Massive cap problems too, Rich. Massive cap problems.
Yeah, I don't know if the interest is mutual right now.
Right.
The Saints don't have a lot of cap room, and they're going to need to create some cap room to do a trade like that. The Jets do have the cap room. So I'm not sure if this – I think teams like Dallas could be interested. Pittsburgh possibly.
I got a team. The
Maybe
Lions.
Baltimore.
The Lions.
No, the Lions won't be. They won't be interested. I mean, they have good receivers. Uh, it's interesting. Devontae has a lot of say in where he ends up.
Right.
Of
Because
course. That's a good
he's
point.
going to have he can steer it one way. Um, I think he wants to reunite with Aaron Rodgers. I really do.
That's what it seems like the sentiment is, that he wants to get back with Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron, listen, I will say up front, not just because I'm an Eagles fan, but the whole thing with Aaron Rodgers, what I didn't like about Aaron was when Brett was still in and playing, and then Aaron Rodgers gets drafted by Green Bay. Here, Brett Favre didn't want it, had nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers turns around after he takes the helm. He says he will never do what Brett did to him. Insert
He did
Jordan
it to
Love,
Jordan Love.
and he does the same thing to Jordan Love. Then he goes to New York and says the same thing, like, oh, I'm just going to take Wilson under my tutelage. I'm going to make sure he gets all, what he needs and everything else. And it's like it continues to follow him no matter where he goes. And then you add before, we're in preseason, and this scheduled, supposed unscheduled visit overseas that he wanted to go through. I mean, how does he, and you have more of control of what goes on there in New York, but do the players actually believe in a lot what Aaron says? Like, does he have control of that locker room, or is the guys just there just kind of going through the motions?
Great questions, Angel.
Well, it is a good question, but let me clarify a couple of things. I don't think he did anything nefarious to Jordan Love. I mean, I think they have a good relationship. So,
Right.
Didn't he rent him his house? Doesn't Jordan Love have his house now, I think, or something? I
no,
saw that.
Aaron offered to rent him his house. I don't
Okay.
think he took him up on it. And then the thing with Zach Wilson, it just never materialized because Aaron got hurt so quickly. He spent most of the season back in California rehabbing his injury. So I don't think he and Zach Wilson ever had a chance to create much of a relationship. And the thing you're referring, he went to Egypt during the mandatory minicamp,
Right.
and that was, it was a violation. I mean, he breached his contract and he got fined about $100,000 for that. A lot of people think no big deal. He had been at
It's
all
a
the
big
other
deal.
practices.
Big
My
deal.
personal feeling is I'm a little old school. I do think it was a big deal. I think he could have rescheduled that trip.
Right.
Um, I think when you're the face of the franchise, you should be at a mandatory event. And it created a lot of publicity at the time, and it was very
They
polarized.
swallow look bad.
Yeah. A lot of fans were like, no big deal. The other fans were saying, or
It's a
treating
big
it like
deal.
the crime of the century. I don't think it was the crime of the century,
You're right.
but he should have been there. You're
Yes.
the quarterback. You want the franchise to revolve around you. He should have been there.
Coming off the injury, he got the offensive coordinator hired. He brought in Lazard. There's a whole bunch of stuff. He has fingerprints all over the team, and he's got to show up.
Yeah, I thought it was the wrong thing. I also thought it was undercutting his head coach a little bit,
Yeah.
and almost figuring like,
Well,
I
he
do
cares
what I want.
anything about that. I don't think he cares about that, Rich. I hate to say that because I like Saleh, but I don't think he cares about Saleh at all. I think he's collateral damage.
Well, he is a good player. I do know this. The players like him a lot. I mean,
They
in the
like
locker.
Aaron?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, he's a good teammate. He tries to connect with all the different players, and he's a hard worker. I have gotten no negative reports on him as a teammate.
Okay, so Rich, when almost everybody's played 4 games so far. It's early. A lot of things happen. It's NFL for a reason, not for long. Guys get hurt. Christian McCaffrey, Micah Parsons. Hello. So far of the league, so far, early things and trends you see and look at and go, wow, that's interesting.
Well, I think passing numbers and scoring is down this year. The teams are not throwing the ball for as many yards. I think defenses have kind of adjusted a little bit. So
To the spread in the passing games and so forth, you're correct.
yeah, you're seeing more cover 2 defenses and teams not wanting to give up the big play, and so there's a lot more dinking and dunking. Which is
Great point, Rich, about cover 2. I love that you said that. Great job.
Yeah, not thank you. So maybe not the crazy passing numbers that we've seen in the past. So maybe a little
Yeah,
more running of the football. I think. I mean, Minnesota's been a big story. No one expected them to be
Yeah.
undefeated. Sam
yes.
Darnold, someone that we know very well in
I
New
was going
York.
to ask you about him and Gino. I mean, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. I mean, two former Jet draft picks are now combined 7-1 this year,
Isn't that
and
amazing? Did you have any idea that Sam Darnold would be this good?
I did. I didn't. I thought it would be with the Jets. I really was high
Good.
on Darnold when he got drafted. I thought he was so good coming out of college,
Sure.
and he just did not. It didn't work for him in New York, like for so many other quarterbacks. It just didn't work for him in New York. I don't think he had much around him. He wasn't coached very well by Adam Gase, and then he bounced around a little bit. He went to Carolina. And then he went. I thought going to San Francisco for a year was great for him. He got to spend a year with Kyle Shanahan. I think he learned a lot. And then he goes to Kevin
Kyle
O'Connell.
loves him. Kyle loves him. So that's
Yeah,
interesting.
and then he's with Josh McCown. His former Jet teammate in Minnesota is now his quarterbacks
Great
coach.
call.
Yeah, so it's a really. I'm happy for Sam. He's a good guy. I always thought he had talent. Now he does have some interception
Oh yeah,
issues. That could you get a feeling that could erupt at any time.
yeah.
Right.
But
Brett Favre-itis.
yeah, but he can make plays, and it helps to have Justin Jefferson when you're throwing a
Oh yeah.
Justin Jefferson. So that's
Did you have Rich? Do you have a relationship with Kevin O'Connell at all?
no,
Uh,
not really. I do remember him when he was with the Jets. I mean, he was
yeah.
he was like the third string quarterback one year, and I think I talked to him a little bit in the
Sure.
locker room, but very briefly, and I'm sure he
So
doesn't remember me at all.
so he originally was a draft pick of the Patriots, and he hurt his shoulder.
Yeah,
And he's tight with Tommy. So I've always known who he is. And obviously he drafted JJ. And then, we JJ was playing great in the preseason, and then he tore up his knee. And
yeah,
you're like, oh, it's like you said, out of nowhere, Sam Darnold coming in and just playing great. And it's amazing. I joke with you and many of my friends, NFL not for long.
yeah,
There's always guys coming out of nowhere. I mean, Brock Purdy is another one.
yeah.
Just playing at elite high level, and you never know. The Mike White a couple of years ago for you guys, and I don't even know where he is now. Uh,
He's on the Buffalo practice squad. Yeah. The
Got to be kidding. You have Mitch Trubisky ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean Buffalo. I mean Mike White's was just a
I
flicker.
love Mike White. I
He
love
was
Mike White.
it was just a
Loved
little.
him going back to the Senior Bowl. Rich, I think I messaged you about him during the Senior Bowl. I loved him at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I mean I like Mike. The players loved him. I think he's got limited amount of ability, but he gets the
That's
most
why
out
I
of.
like him, Rich. He reminds me of me. That's why. So I mean, it's limited ability. No,
Yeah,
I think, like as an example, why did Miami let him go? Skylar Thompson. I mean, please. I mean, don't they know that Tua is in the condition he is, and he's and their offensive line isn't very good. They throw the ball out. He's going to get hit. I
yeah. I think
mean,
it might have been some more of a financial decision with Mike White. I think it was
okay,
he had a
because
cap.
okay, so he has a real contract. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, he
Yeah.
did with Miami. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah.
So, and obviously that's always a factor with the money, and you can't be paying. That's amazing because I think doesn't Trubisky make like $10 million to back up Josh Allen? I mean, I think he makes good money.
I don't know what Trubisky's contract is. That would
Whatever it
be
is, it's too much.
no. It's not $10 million.
So,
I can tell you that much. 10 million for a backup is quite excessive, and I don't think the
well, I
Jets.
think isn't that what Sam Darnold got, right? Isn't that? I think that's what
Yeah,
Sam signed with
well,
for. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Sam
that's
signed.
like the highest one. Yeah.
Yeah, he was sort of signing as like a 1A quarterback, because I think there was a
Or
chance he was going to
a
start
caretaker like Jacoby Brissett with the Patriots.
a
Exactly.
bridge quarterback. Yeah,
Yeah, I
he's
got you.
so he'll be a free agent after this year, and if he keeps it up, I mean, I'm sure some team will make him a nice offer.
Could
I'm looking up his contract right now. Hold on. Go ahead, Angel.
Rich, could Sam Darnold be in the same conversation for comeback player of the year along with DeMar Hamlin if he continues to go the pace that he's going right now?
I think absolutely, Sam. Now, DeMar Hamlin's would have been last year's comeback player of the year,
Oh
but
yes,
Sam, absolutely could be comeback player of the year. I mean, he was just a backup last year, didn't do much. Right now, he's in the MVP conversation for crying
right.
out loud. He's. I don't think he'll keep it up, but it would be a tremendous story.
And then I want to go a little southwest of New York, over across the mountains into Pittsburgh, because Mike Tomlin was asked if, since Justin Fields been playing the way he has right now, pretty much has almost been lights out minus a loss against Indy. Russell Wilson, from his rehab, apparently he's ready to come back. They asked if he should still be QB1, which he is temporarily until Russell Wilson comes back, or does Russell Wilson then come back to be QB1 all over again? And along with that, since Miami's still, they're still in trouble trying to figure out who they need to try and save their season, could they possibly, if they stick with Russell Wilson, would Justin Fields be let go by Pittsburgh and sent down to Miami?
Great questions, Angel.
Yeah, I
I
don't
want to hear
see.
Rich on this.
They're not going to let Justin Fields go. I mean,
No, clearly
no, they're
they're
not
not
letting
as
him.
dumb as the Bears. Clearly, yes.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. I think Miami's just going to roll with what they have, and there's always a chance that Tua comes back. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he's not going to come, that he's done for the year. So yeah, Miami's going through some hard times. I went through it last year with the Jets. I mean, Rodgers gets hurt,
Mm-hmm.
Wilson comes in. Wilson did lousy. They benched him. They started Tim Boyle, for crying out loud. Tim Boyle is a terrible quarterback. And then they benched him, and
Rich, let us know what you really think.
Trevor Simeon. So the Dolphins are going through what the Jets went through last year. So
I
that's just
know. I forgot. Tim Boyle, Connecticut great. Yeah, that was. And
he
he
didn't
was
even
he was there also because of Aaron Rodgers on the Packers. That
that
was
was
another
the
one.
reason
I
why he
forgot
was there.
about Tim Boyle.
That was the reason why he
So,
was there. He wasn't even good at
okay, so
Connecticut.
I just looked up. Trubisky makes under $3 million, so I was only off
Yeah,
by $7 million. So there
yeah,
you go.
that's all right.
So it's okay. Angel's going to deduct that from my pay. So no, it's so no, Rich. Is you look at over your career, I would assume Lawrence Taylor is the best defensive player you've seen. Am I correct?
I would say Lawrence Taylor, yes.
Okay, who's number two? I want to hear this.
Wow, there's so many really good ones. I mean, Reggie White, I would have to put up there.
Yeah.
I'm a
That's what
little,
Lawrence Taylor says is the best he's seen, by the way.
yeah, I would. I mean, I'm a little partial because I covered him a little bit, but Ronnie Lott, I would put up there pretty high. He was with the Jets for a
Yep.
couple of years. Love Ronnie. Just
He
talked
would
to
be one of my two safeties on my all-time team. The other one would be Mr. Ed Reed.
Yeah, I was just going to say Ed Reed. I've seen him wreck so many games, for man, he when he got the ball in his hands, he was always a threat to take it all the way. I
That
would
would be
say
Tommy's answer, by the way, Ed Reed.
yeah, Ed Reed was just spectacular. Um,
And another one, by the way, of Rich, of these guys who didn't have the great combine workouts, the Tom Brady's, the Walter Paytons, the Jerry Rices, the guys that were great players that did not have a great combine and, wow, look at me numbers and go out and they're incredible players.
yeah, I mean, I would put Deion Sanders in the conversation.
Great call. Great call,
I,
Rich.
I covered Darrell Revis. I mean, he was a great cornerback. I would put him in the
Not Deion
conversation.
Sanders.
We're missing a very obvious one who he just retired. Aaron Donald has to be.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Great call.
for sure. Aaron Donald.
J.J. Watt's another one. J.J. Watt and Aaron Donald did things historically on Lawrence Taylor's level, with as far as Defensive Player of the Year awards and things like that.
Yeah, Aaron Donald was just freaky.
Oh, yeah.
Just an
And Aaron
absolute.
Donald's another one, by the way, that didn't have great numbers and just looked like a normal guy. I
Well, he
mean,
was undersized. That was the
oh,
knock
yeah.
on him when he was
Yeah.
coming out of college at a Pitt. He was a
Yeah,
smaller
just
type
come on,
guy.
yeah. It was just crazy. Great player.
Yeah, that I would. He's probably the best. There are certain guys like you just know they're getting the Hall of Fame on the first ballot, and it's not even a debate. So Aaron Donald is obviously one of those players.
Here's a good
Okay,
one.
so my answer for the second best defensive player since Lawrence Taylor's Ed Reed. And then
Ray Lewis was really good too. Ray Lewis was a hell of a linebacker.
He was.
but yes, but I think because of the era Ray Lewis played in with the dimes and nickel defenses and things like that, that position is kind of phased out now. But when he was playing, he was a great player. But I still think Ed Reed was better. And a guy off that team that doesn't get talked about enough was Haloti Nada. Haloti Nada was amazing. I mean, there are guys, because you study film and watch this, there are guys that make tackles and there are guys who make plays. You know, the Giants teams with Parcells and Phil Simms, guys like Jim Burt and Eric Howard making plays. So Carl Banks, Lawrence Taylor, Pepper Johnson, Gary Reasons, all those guys can make plays. The Patriots had Richard Seymour and Vince Wilfork. You know, you guys had Jason Ferguson for years, the Parcells teams.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah.
Always guys that impact the game that you don't realize. That's why Aaron Donald would have some of his best games where he'd have no stats, but he's being blocked by three guys.
Yeah.
And it's different.
Well, he had a lot of stats too.
I know. Oh, trust me. I know all, but I'm just saying you could try to take him away and other people would do. I mean, Lawrence Taylor had that year he set the sack record and then Strahan beat him where he didn't have a sack like last 3 games of the year because teams were blocking him like 3 and 4 guys.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just different. You have to see the full game to understand the impact the guy has in game. Like Michigan right now with Alex Orji playing quarterback, the defense has to defend against him running so other guys can do more things. And it's interesting to see. Now, my follow-up question, because you're my buddy, and I got to bring you on to ask you this. Who's the second best player you've seen in the NFL since Tom Brady?
The second best player I've seen in the NFL.
Second best player you've seen. I'm half kidding. You might not think Tom's the best player, but who's the best player you've seen besides Tom in the NFL?
I certainly would put Brady at the top of the list just because of what he's accomplished.
That's why you're on my show, Rich. Good job. You got your cue. Yeah. Good boy.
Hey, look, I've seen Tom Brady play a lot. You know, a lot of Jet Patriot games, and I saw him play a lot.
A lot of L's, my friend. A lot of L's, unfortunately.
A lot of L's. Maybe only 1 or 2 W's over 20 years that I remember. They beat him.
The 2010 playoff game is one of the worst losses in the history of his life, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was. But I would say, I saw a lot of Dan Marino in person. I would put,
you want to talk about a guy who did damage to the Jets.
Yeah, as a pure thrower of the football, Marino was up there. Maybe the most talented quarterback I've ever seen in person would be John Elway. Just in terms, the best arm, best athlete.
Have you actually been up close next to Elway?
Yes.
His forearms are bigger than me.
I covered his last game in the NFL, which not only it was a Super Bowl, but in those days they had the Pro Bowl after the Super Bowl in Hawaii, and I was covering the Pro Bowl in Hawaii. And I was standing next to Elway in the locker room, and everybody knew he was going to retire. He was probably 38 or 39. And the thing that struck me about Elway watching him in the locker room were how ugly and old his legs looked. He looked like he had the legs of a 75-year-old guy. It was a little sobering just to see that. And he was only 38, 39 years old. And I'm like, man, that guy has taken a beating over his career. And, but yeah, so I was.
You could hit the quarterback, Ian Marino and Jim Kelly.
Yeah. So those would be the two. Jerry Rice would be up there. I would put Rice up there. I'm a little partial to Curtis Martin. I love
Curtis Martin. Great call, Rich.
Every game he played with the Jets, and then even some games we played with the Patriots. So I would put him. He's probably the most consistent player that I've covered. But those are just some of the top players.
So my answer, I think John Elway is the second best quarterback I've seen. Mm-hmm. But the amazing thing, and you brought this up, the 83 draft, everybody in that draft of the quarterbacks outside of poor Todd Blackledge was good at one time.
Yeah,
because both Ken O'Brien and Tony Eason were both very good at one time.
Tony Eason wasn't that good though. I
Well,
mean,
I have to say that, Rich. I get the Angels laughing. I
yeah,
have to say that because he got us to the Super Bowl, even though it was really Steve Grogan, but that's the whole history.
yeah.
But Ken O'Brien was good. Ken
Ken
O'Brien was
O'Brien,
really
Ken O'Brien had 2 or 3 outstanding years, and unfortunately, in that offense he was in, he just took a lot of hits, and
yes.
but he had a really good arm and was a classic drop back passer. I don't think he could function in today's NFL because he really had no mobility. Today's NFL, you got to be able to move around a little bit, but Kenny could throw a great, accurate ball. Really, really smart quarterback, and it's unfortunate. I mean, he wasn't Dan Marino, and the Jets could have picked Marino, and Kenny had to kind of live with that his whole career. But Kenny had a really, really good career.
Okay, two things before I let you go. Do you have a Hall of Fame vote?
I do not right now. No, I'm not
Okay.
on the
Well,
50%.
we got to get that fixed and get you a vote. But if
Okay.
you had one vote, you could get this player in. Somebody obscure that people don't talk about. Might be a Jet guy. For me, it'd be like Gino Capoletti from the Patriots. But
Hmm.
somebody that you don't think gets recognized enough that you remember either covering on the Jets or as an opponent, and you said, hey, this guy's a great, great player. Nobody talks about him. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Is there a guy that comes to mind?
Well, there was, but he just got in the Hall of Fame last year, and that was Joe Klecko with the Jets. It had been a
Great
long,
call.
yeah, it had been a long,
Another guy who sacrificed stats for other people like Gastineau and Marty Lyons and those guys. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Klecko was a great player, and he just had to wait like 30 years to get in the Hall of Fame, which was ridiculous. And he finally got his just due. So that would have been my guy. But
Yeah.
now it's hard to say. It's. I mean, if you named a team, I mean, I'm mostly familiar with the AFC. So
Rodney Harrison.
Rodney Harrison, really good. Yeah. I mean, of all those Patriot teams, I think Seymour will probably get in at some point.
Well, he's in. He's in. He's already in.
Oh, that's right. He just got in, right?
Yeah, he just got in like
Um,
2 years ago.
who else on that team? Gronk is obviously a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I
Randy
think Tom
Moss,
might make it.
he might. It might be close. Um, who else on those teams? I don't
I
think.
got
I don't
well,
think.
Adam. Well, the obvious ones are Adam, Gronk, Tommy, Randy Moss. I'll tell you what, a guy that I don't think
Ty
gets
Law
talked.
made it. Ty Law, he's
Yep,
in.
Todd's in. A guy that I always because the way the game is now with the throwing, Art Monk, I don't think is in. I always
Oh,
Art
Art
Monk is
Monk is in. Art Monk is
oh
in.
he's in now, okay, because he and Steve Largent had all the records before Jerry
Yeah,
Rice.
yeah.
And but no, I don't think there's an obvious one that comes to mind. I just wanted to hear it from your perspective. But Joe Klecko, is part of the sack exchange with Gastineau, Marty Lyons, Abdul Salam, and Klecko. See, Rich, I named all four of them. I got it.
Do you
And
name? Do you think Gastineau's got over 100 career sacks? That's an
yeah,
interesting one.
but people hate his guts. I mean, people just don't like Mark.
I think he's very polarizing. I think some people hate
Oh
him,
wait,
and some
really?
love him. So he's an interesting case. I mean, he was a dominant pass rusher in
Oh
his
yeah,
era,
oh yeah.
and I don't think he'll ever get in. In fact, I just
No,
had Mark on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and
is he
he
a
doesn't.
good guy?
Yeah, he's a good guy. I mean, he's
Yeah.
going through some physical, struggles right now, but good guy. And I don't think he gets enough credit for the career he had. He did have an
Oh
exceptional.
no, he was cool. I
Yeah, he
mean,
was an
he was a
exceptional
really
career.
good player. And you also remember when he was playing, and Lawrence Taylor's another one. They didn't throw 50 times a game like we do now. I
Yeah,
mean, the sacking numbers are completely different.
yeah, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated with Lawrence Taylor once. About
I
New
know.
York football in 1986, I believe. But
So Rich, before we let you go, I gotta ask you, like a kind of a Super Bowl. It's a long ways away. Super Bowl. How you see things breaking, and I know a lot of stuff's gonna happen. And if there is a favorite moment in your career covering the Jets, Besides meeting me, of course. But
Yeah, well, that's obvious. So for this year's Super Bowl, I still believe Kansas City. You know, they're not playing great right now,
you're
but
right not to bet against them.
they're still winning, and I think they'll be there in the end. So I would say Kansas City, and then for the NFC, that's kind of wide open right now. Who Lions? Yeah, I can see the Lions. Yeah, I can see the Lions doing it. Hey, how great would a Lions Super Bowl? I mean, the fans would be they would take over New Orleans. So yeah,
Oh, geez.
I'll go
There
with
you go.
Casey and the
I got
Lions.
you.
I think that would
Okay,
be,
so what's your the career highlight covering the Jets?
you know,
Angel, stop laughing.
hey, the Jets almost, I've covered three championship games with the Jets. You know, they got there three times. A couple of times I thought they were going. You know, they were leading Denver 10-0 in the second half.
Game, yes. And then
And
you had the punt rate, the fumble by the guy who didn't fumble.
yeah, Keith Byers and so that was a real disappointment. I would say probably the highlight, like in terms of like biggest victories, and we
Or just a
alluded to
favorite
it.
part of your career, like you wrote a piece or you met a player and you really liked this guy. Something like if you were buddies with Wayne Corbett and then he became Wayne Corbett, something like that.
Well, I did watch Wayne Corbett's first few practices, and he was catching everything, and he was like the
Boomer.
10th
Boomer
guy in
also.
the depth chart. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the one good thing Rich Kotite did as coach. He gave Wayne Corbett a chance, and Wayne.
Well, I love Boomer Esiason.
Yeah,
And Boomer talks about Corbett all the time. I mean, I know media.
just a great.
So it's funny. I used to get mistaken for Wayne Corbett a lot,
Yeah,
which I don't know how that could happen. You probably around the Patriots and the Jets, and I thought it was funny as hell that I would get mistaken for Wayne. I mean, you don't think it looked like Keyshawn, but but no,
Yeah.
he was
That
a great story, and he kind of created the little white guy slot position, which Tommy made with Edelman and Amendola and Wes Welker, because he had Troy Brown originally. But, and Wayne was such a great player. And Belichick talks about him like he was Jesus. We couldn't really covered Wayne, in a game. Wow, look at that.
Yeah, Wayne was just he had a heart as big as anything, and he's strong.
Phenomenal player. I also love Altoon. I love Altoon.
Yeah, I just saw him the other day at a alumni event. Altoon was good, but yeah, let's end it right there with Wayne Corbett. I think that's a good way to end because he was like the underdog guy, the Cinderella story. And I was there the day that he showed up as a rookie, and the security guard, wouldn't let him in the facility because they thought he was an autograph seeker. Like, no, I'm on the team. And I think he was 10th on the depth chart at that point. And by the end of the summer, he was starting. So,
that's a great story. Rich, cannot thank you enough for coming on. Let's go Mets. We got to go. We got a game here in about half an hour.
We got to go watch this game. We got to bring it home and eliminate Milwaukee tonight. All right.
There you go, buddy. Thanks so much, Rich. I appreciate it, buddy. Reach out anytime.
Take care, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Rich.
It was very informative. You guys, if you just joined us, Rich Minnie was just on with us here. It is 7:12 here on the East Coast, 4:12 on the left coast, also known as the West Coast. We thank you for joining us here. Beav's World with Beav, a.k.a. Jay, here with me on every Monday and Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. We thank you all for tuning in tonight. We do appreciate it here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game brought to you by Broad Street South and the Coastal Sports Network, which we've already kind of skipped over 2 breaks here, but I mean, great insight by Rich, and it's fun to hear stories about things that the throwback names. Rich Kotite, which listen, us as Eagles fans.
I had to bring that up because you're Mr. Eagles.
Yeah, not a fan of Rich Kotite whatsoever. I could have done without that one, but listen, whatever. It's good to talk about it.
I joke about this all the time. Rich is going to heaven. Some of the stuff he's had to deal with.
Yeah, it's.
He's seen some stuff. He's seen some stuff, Angel.
That he has. It's very true. He's seen some stuff, but you know what? But it's what makes you a man. What makes you a character. I mean, it's. And plus, when you go through Philly, it's same way like Detroit, same thing like Chicago. I mean, there's certain cities that you go through that the fan base is going to kill you, but for all the right reasons, because it's just like Philly. Philly wants to see the best out of you, right? The same way, no different in Detroit. How many years have Lions fans have suffered in agony and just waiting for something to finally happen? And then you turn around, you got Dan Campbell and this team. I mean, it's just clicking on all cylinders. And I will say, and I know it may sound goofy, but I do, and I really, really appreciate the uniforms that he just had on Monday. I thought the helmets, I really, really, because I love blue, the color blue. But those helmets, whoever you know over there in Detroit, I would love to have one here on the mantle. But it was good. But listen, Dan Campbell, Detroit is really winning that city over. Dan Campbell is definitely won the fans over. Especially if you talk about the only difference would end up being, though, Beav, is that if you turn around, look, when the Eagles hosted the draft in 2017, who knew that they ended up winning the Super Bowl that same year? So just saying, maybe Detroit could have the same magic.
There you go. Okay, so let's catch up on the breaks, and that was awesome. I love Dan. Let's catch up on the breaks. I'm sorry I overran it there on your, Angel.
No, you're fine. It's no worries. Listen, that's why we pay the bills around here, just to make sure that we get a little hold of everybody. So you guys are listening to, once again, it is Beav at Beav's World here from 6 to 8 p.m. on Sports Radio 102.9. We are going to take a break. After that, we'll get a little more into the Lions. I'm pretty sure there's probably another Davante Adams story that's going out there. And yes, the Mets are exactly about 23 minutes away from first pitch. And if you guys have not known, the Astros were knocked off by the Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers will move on to the division series. Astros are out, and we will be back. Don't forget, you guys can always text and or call into the show at 727-858-6650, 727-858-6650. And after Beav's World, coming up is Talking Hoops with Coach Mack, Coach Johnson, and Ron Briscoe. So we shall be back right after this.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Jim and the Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our second location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak from Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu. Hey guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it gardenia. It's pronounced Chardonnay.
Phil Castanetti, Sports World in Saugus, Mass. is New England's place to buy or sell the finest in sports memorabilia. For over 35 years, Sports World has offered the finest in sports collectibles. Don't miss the return of the legend, former Bruins goalie Tim Thomas. Tim will be at Sports World on Saturday, October 5th from noon until 2 p.m. Tim will be signing and taking photos. Prices vary, so don't miss this awesome event. Saturday, October 5th at Sports World, 184 Broadway in Saugus, Massachusetts. Call 781-233-7222 for more information. Sports World in Saugus. Be there.
High on Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. High on Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by High on Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
This is just police repellent. All right, good looking crowd. First time in Utah. Yeah. It's very white. White people, let me share something with y'all. Y'all may not know. White people, y'all like to whisper the race of the person that you're talking about. Saw this happen to me one time. It was like, hey, you know, Mike Goodwin's gonna be there. The black guy. I was like, why are you whispering? That is not a secret. People give me a hard time because of my appearance. This is how I typically dress. People are like, Mike, why you always so dressed up? I'm like, I'm not dressed up. This is just police repellent. I'm just saying I never fit the description, you know. Officer pulled me over. He was like, "Is that a cardigan you got on, man? Why don't you just slow down, sir?" I'm excited to be in the West. I'm from South Carolina. I'm from a town, Camden, South Carolina. From the South. I tell people wherever I go, I'm from the South with an F and not a TH. I'm from the South. One thing about Southerners, we have the unique ability to just make up words. You know, it's in our DNA. We say words like fin-to and fixin'. What it happened was, that's one word right there. That's one entire word. Matter of fact, my favorite word is a made-up word. It's 5 syllables. One word. What you not gonna do? Yeah, my mother said that a lot when I was growing up. My mother said stuff like, what you not gonna do is keep running in and out of this house. That's what you're not gonna do. What you're not gonna do is stand in front of a refrigerator and hold that door open. Little boy. That's what you're not gonna do. Y'all can use it at your job. You know, you go to work, you got that coworker that always asking you questions before you get settled. You're like, what you're not gonna do is come in here and ask me questions before I turn on my computer. That's what you're not gonna do. That's what you're not gonna do. We're unique in the South. We love nicknames in the South. I realize there's some people I've been knowing my entire life. I don't know their real names. My brother called me the other day. He said, hey, man, you know Mark Davis's mom passed away. It's like, I don't know Mark Davis, man. He's like, Stanky, man. Stanky mama passed. I was like, why you ain't say that from the start? I need to give Stank a call. You know, I think white dudes have the coolest nicknames. I really do. Because white dudes' nicknames go with them their entire life. White dudes have nicknames like Rusty, Skip, Chip. Like your nickname could be Chip. You could be the CEO of a bank. You could have Chip on your business cards. The brothers can't do that. Pookie can't be a branch manager at the bank.
All right, welcome back here. We got about, about 30 minutes or so to play around with here on Beav's World. Of course, Beav's joining me here today, as he does every Monday and Wednesday now for the second time this week. As we're the premiere show this week, we do appreciate, obviously, from Jay taking some time out from his busy schedule. And if you guys were on with us just a little bit earlier, you had Rich Cimini that was on with us. ESPN NFL Nation reporting on. No worries. You're good. No worries whatsoever. So thank you all for joining us here at Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. We do appreciate it on the Coastal Sports Network. And we thank you guys. As always, don't forget, right after the show, Talking Hoops every Wednesday night with Coach Johnson, Coach Mack, and Ron Briscoe. That's coming up directly after Beav's World. So it is, about 7:22 here on the East Coast, 4:22 on the left coast. And it is still hot down here in Florida as we are still in the 90s all the way through the weekend. But you said it was nice and warm, wasn't it, Michigan?
Yeah, it was like 65, 70 today. It was nice. Good weather. I mean, I went over to baseball practice about half an hour and watched the guys work out. But, one thing I just saw online, Michael Jordan's suing NASCAR.
Yeah. Yep. The anti-trust lawsuit.
Story. We break big stories here. We had the Pete Rose thing, unfortunately, rest in peace to Pete and his family. But, big things happen when we're on the air, Angel.
It does. So, and the one you're talking about here, I'll bring it up as this was I'll tell you about it. There's more details are beginning to trickle out of 23 racing.
It's basically about NASCAR being a monopoly.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is because they have a lawsuit in which 23 in front row accused NASCAR CEO Jim France of unlawful monopolization of premier stock racing in order to enrich themselves at the expense of the premier stock car racing teams. It also explains why teams' revenues is less than they could get in a competitive market, and that's per Bob Packrass of Fox Sports. And the lawsuit claims teams' revenue is less than what they could get in a competitive market. Being NASCAR owners' majority of tracks prohibits similar stock car races at any cup track. NASCAR requires teams to buy parts, pieces from specific vendors, and wants control of team IP rights, Packrass wrote on X, and which means that the lawsuit stems from the 23 in front row opting not to sign NASCAR's final charter proposal at Atlanta Motor Speedway last month. Teams have been negotiating an extension of the original 2016 charter agreement for the last 2 years ahead of its expiration on December 31st. Teams made demands such as making charters permanent, which NASCAR refused to include in its proposal. I did hear about that one. So it is, listen, NASCAR has been getting away with a lot for many, many years. A lot of these teams are just fed up. And it's true. You shouldn't have to go to a specific vendor. I think there's been other teams as well, and every major league sport, they just get tired of having to go to a vendor that they feel deemed fit because they just put more money in their pocket.
No, it's a monopoly. Like, I haven't seen everything, but you say, hey, you can buy your parts from one place. If you understand what the NFL does, the league can have an official pizza, but so can the Dallas Cowboys, the New England Patriots, and the Jets. And we just had Rich. The Jets and Giants have, I'm sure, different soft drinks and merchandising deals, but the league also has a league-wide merchandising deal. I believe the NFL is a Pepsi league, and the Lions have a deal with Coke, so they get two checks. That's just smart business planning. And it's funny that Jordan's the one doing this lawsuit, but he basically made Nike with his own sneaker deal. If you've seen, everybody should watch Air, the movie about how Michael Jordan signed with Nike, with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, because it's incredible. A lot of this was done because of Michael Jordan's mother and Michael listening to his mother and going on his word, and just the mistakes of Adidas and some of the other companies that treated Michael Jordan just like he was another guy. And Nike really went out of their way to make him feel like he was the guy and be their big ticket guy. And clearly, I think they've done okay with that deal. By the way, the Kansas City's up 2-1 on the Orioles in the 8th inning.
Yeah, that's the Orioles fans. You might be looking the other way because it could be the season over for Baltimore. Every season they get just a little bit better, but Kansas City could end up having their number. And I remember in, 2010 going to 2011? Was it 2011 KC won it all? If I remember correctly.
No, that was 2015. They beat my Mets Angels. Angel, why did you just do that to me?
Hey, you brought up Rich Kotite so I can bring up Kansas City against the Mets. Now we can make it even. But no, it's funny because the year before they did just like the Phillies did.
They lost to the Giants, Madison Baumgartner, the year before.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of, I thought it was kind of interesting that the Giants are going with Buster Posey as their new manager.
Oh, no. Yeah, the new GM. Yeah, isn't that interesting?
GM, excuse me, yeah.
They fired Fareem. They fired Fareem Zahadi, which is amazing.
Yeah. Well,
so it'll be interesting to see if he comes here to Detroit because the Detroit GM, Scott Weaver, was one of his guys. So all these guys are interconnected. Like you saw, Cham Bloom just got hired by somebody. Used to be with the Rays, and then he was with the Red Sox. So it's just crazy. You're seeing all these moves. And listen, I maintain this. If the Dodgers and Yankees lose, both of those managers are gone.
You think?
Oh, yeah. And I think A.J. Hinch will be getting calls, particularly from the Yankees.
That wouldn't be bad. Well,
Aaron Boone and Roberts have been there for a while, and they got big payrolls. I mean, it's crazy when you think about it.
What kind of surprised me a little bit? It was Alex Cora who, on the press conference yesterday, he just looked like a deer in headlights. He wasn't saying much. He was just kind of like staring out there and just wondering to see what I thought, honestly. I mean, I know they just, if I remember correctly, he just got an extension, I believe, from
Yeah.
the Red Sox. So
Okay, there's a story with that, by the way, but you keep going.
I'm wondering though, are the Red Sox do they still feel the same way about Alex Cora?
Well, I think they're stopped spending money, and they gave away Chris Sale for some lawn furniture and a hot dog, so that was
Yeah.
part of it. They're in cost cutting and saving money mode. So I don't think's going on. If you saw Cora, I think he signed like a 3-year extension. The
Yeah.
general manager's contract is up, and I think Cora will be the next GM of the Red Sox when his
Interesting.
manager deal is up. He's going to be the GM of the team. That's what I think's happening and going on.
That's
And,
interesting.
and remember, back when they hired Cora, the guy that they really wanted was the Diamondbacks manager, Torey Lovello. And I think Lovello either turned him down or took another job. And because Lovello used to coach, I think he used to coach Pawtucket for the Red Sox, a minor league team. Somehow these things work out. I mean, Carlos Mendoza on the Mets is a great example. Not a big name, and he just come in and done a really good job. This Snicker guy on the Braves, as shameful as what they did to the National League and baseball over the last week or so, he's a good manager.
Mhm.
The guy in Tampa was a no-name, and he got hired. I mean, there's a lot of, not everybody's Bruce Bochy.
Yeah.
Bruce Bochy could show up and pick up 25 guys from your parking lot at your Publix, and they'd be a good team. So, I mean, it's all different. But no, the Buster Posey thing is interesting because it gives that team some credibility. They've kind of had a rough patch since he and Baumgartner and some of their older guys kind of got phased out and are kind of in a new era. But, we saw Derek Jeter was running the Marlins for a while because obviously the Yankees have a guy who's been their general manager for like 30 years now, and Brian Cashman. And so it's interesting to see, as far as being an executive for a big market team like that and having the ability to just, shape and create an image of a team and so forth. But interesting to see. But it's cool. You're getting old, Angel, when you grew up watching guys and they're now managers and general managers and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Bruins fan. I'm watching Don Sweeney and Cam Neely run the Bruins. And I used to watch those guys in high school. So, particularly Don, who's basically he's a small defenseman. So, other than he went to Harvard and I didn't. But I went to the Harvard of the West. I went to Michigan. But, no, it's a fun thing. And obviously, we're just talking about Jordan with all his business dealings and so forth.
Yeah. Well, one of the guys responsible for one of those deals is one of the co-hosts on Talking Hoops, which is right after your show, Ron Briscoe. And I've had fun with Ron and picking his brain about what happened, that whole deal. Then he let me the lowdown between when obviously with Kobe, when he was coming over, how they basically stole him from Adidas and brought him over to Nike. And then, of course, LeBron James and that whole deal. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know, I'm kind of curious to kind of see, obviously LeBron is happy. They're at camp. He's with Bronny. They're getting to practice, so on and so forth. But if Nike, which I don't see them making a big multi-million-dollar deal. Obviously, the way they did with LeBron, because LeBron's a whole different beast, a whole different specimen. But would it be insulting if they give Bronny James, a huge Nike deal and he's not even going to be a starter in the NBA?
Well, I mean, you've seen Pete mention this. Nike's having problems, right?
Right.
We talked about that like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, so I don't know. That's a good point because these other guys look at the deals, and obviously Steph Curry left Nike to go to Under Armour, and a couple other guys have done their own thing.
Yep.
And what is Wemby with Reebok or Adidas? I know he's not with Nike.
Well, I believe he is with Reebok.
Okay, and obviously Owatani's with New Balance.
Yep.
And you see his ads all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it's interesting. I give great credit because that's what Jordan did. Jordan went and found his own brand, and everybody's doing Converse at the time. And that's the thing about the Air movie that's amazing. It didn't matter if you were Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson. You had the same shoe if you were with Converse. Why would you have Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. Then the shoe's the same, whether it's Joe Blow or Michael Jordan. It's stupid, and that's why there's so many things in that movie that are just hilarious. I mean, why would you pay? One of the guys that they liked in the movie was Mel Turpin, and which is another thing that's funny, but it's just these decisions and things they do. Like Steph Curry left Nike because he was pitched on being the basketball guy for Under Armour by Tom Brady and Michael Jordan, believe it or not. And so it worked out. I mean, but it's crazy when you think about this stuff and the standalone ads. And I think a great lesson from Jordan is Jordan did a lot of brands that weren't like big deals, like ballpark hot dogs and Hanes underwear, and he made them a big deal. And Gatorade blew up because of him. So I think if you really are passionate about a product, take it on. One of the funnier things about Tommy was when he was the quarterback of the Patriots, one of the big deals that the Patriots star players always got with Dunkin' Donuts. Well, Tom didn't really eat donuts, and he famously doesn't drink coffee. So he gave it to Teddy Bruschi and all these other guys, and they got the deals. And Gronk obviously took it on later, but he gave it on to his teammates and let them get the Dunkin' Donuts. And again, we don't need to have a bake sale for Tommy,
Right.
but he's done okay with his career. But no, it's I think if you do consistently do the right thing, things work out pretty good for you. And just attach yourself to things you feel passionate about, and stand for something or fall for anything. One of my football captains famously said when I was a junior in high school. But it's pretty crazy when you think about it. But to go back to what you were talking about with the Lions, I just think it's pretty amazing because obviously the coach is fun. We've seen the Applebee's commercial. The team's really good. They got a lot of flashy players. Aiden's a lot of fun. Goff, obviously, with his big game. The two running backs, the receivers, J-Mo and St. Brown, and Sam Laporta, who's back getting healthy. But they're a fun team. And Deborah, who's one of my business partners, Hookstra, and my executive producer and does a lot of things with me and my websites, talked about them being like the Harlem Globetrotters of the NFL. And I think it was just really an interesting point where they're fun and entertaining. And the league doesn't have a lot of that type of stuff. Everything's kind of buttoned down and one everybody runs the same stuff. And that's kind of how the Ravens stand out. Because how do you simulate playing the Ravens? They got Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. I mean, you can't practice to play those type of guys in practice.
Correct.
It's an outlier, and to a lesser extent, what your Eagles did for years with the push play with Jalen Hurts, and it's changed because Kelsey's not there anymore, and he's a huge part of it as your center. But it's hard to simulate that, and what your team does unusually. And I think the Lions having a lot of different parts of their team, salt and pepper thing with Aiden, as a white guy defensive end. There's a lot of those guys in the league. It just goes in cycles, with the Boses and Max Crosby and so forth. But I just think they're a fun team, and the Harlem Globetrotters comparison that Deborah and other people have made, I think is really interesting. And it's a fun thing because, one of the things as a society, I think we've done more about, talk about having fun and the sports bringing it's where racism kind of goes to die, because you got to have everybody working together and win.
Right.
We have white running backs are really good. We have black quarterbacks are really good. That was unheard of 25, 30 years ago. Christian McCaffrey, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels. So it's interesting to see that, and it's just, hey, the best players play. And the question you asked about to Rich about Gerard Mayo coaching the Patriots, that's a big deal. But it's also something that wasn't lost on me, that the team that Devontae plays for and Antonio's from is Art Shell. And that happened when I was in high school. Art Shell was the first black coach in the NFL. And I think it was like 1980, 89. And he replaced, of all people, Mike Shanahan. So it was really how far we've come. You know, if you have a minority quarterback, it's not even like talked about anymore. It's not what Doug Williams and Warren Moon had to go to the CFL and play. I remember watching how bad Tony Easton was, and Rich kind of buried him, which was good. How bad Tony Easton was, and I used to watch CFL games and watch Warren Moon on the Edmonton Eskimos, and Warren Moon was incredible. And I'm like, why isn't he playing in the NFL? I mean, I see guys that he's a million times better than in the NFL. And this is when Jim Kelly was playing, Marino was playing, and Ken O'Brien was playing in division. And as Rich and I just talked about, Ken O'Brien was really good. And Easton was okay. He was good for a little bit, but then he was just bad. But because Steve Grogan was that. And obviously the Eagles with Randall Cunningham, who was incredible in the late 80s, early 90s. He just made the Giants and Bill Belichick, Bill Parcells, Lawrence Taylor, and those guys cost them championships. And it's fun to see that the sports world kind of embraces the minority guys. When like DeMar Hamlin almost died, you had two white quarterbacks out there crying in their teams and everything, and it was such a crazy story because DeMar Hamlin's roommate at Pitt was one of Joe Burrow's wide receivers, Tyler Boyd. So Joe Burrow knows who this is, who's on the ground, and obviously Josh Allen was, and his teammates were affected. But it's cool when you see I'm a bring the people together type of guy, and I think it's really a cool thing. I'm working with my buddy Angel Hernandez and James Patrick Flannelly. Who saw that pairing happening back in the day? So there you go. But it's pretty cool.
What first of all, it's a shame what happened with Warren Moon because it's boy, I don't understand. I mean, it's about
look at his numbers for his career. It's amazing.
Yeah, but it's just choices that that people make in their lifespan. Unfortunately, some good, some bad, and then you got to scratch your head to some certain other things. But we also like to thank a lot of the folks who are watching on Rumble. We do appreciate it. The same way like over on YouTube and Twitter and everywhere in between. Don't forget, you can also watch the live show and catch up with the shows over on sr1029thegame.com. Go over to the sports radio tab where you'll be able to see tonight's show, Talking Hoops, live. You can always text or call the show at 727-858-6650. And we do appreciate, once again, everyone just downloading the app. Don't forget, you can do it directly on the homepage and also on the screen as you guys see it. You can just snap the QR code that's up there, and you can download the app from there so you won't miss any of the lineup here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game, brought to you by the Coastal Sports Network and, of course, Broad Street South, originally from the Philly metro area. So one thing, I don't think there has been many of these, of this particular question, Beav, about people asking, but when you guys first knew out there in Michigan, the possibility, Matthew Stafford to LA, Jared Goff to Detroit, what was it? Either was there a lot of excitement, or a lot of people just upset because they saw what Matthew Stafford was doing with Detroit prior to going over to LA and then obviously winning the Super Bowl with them?
No, people wanted Stafford gone and rebuild the team. And by the way, Goff was the throw-in, and they never expected him to be this. That's why they took Hendon Hooker. That's the reality. And Goff kind of growing people. One of my coworkers, Chris Jones, went to the game there, and he bought a Goff jersey. He has it on today at work. Nice. The the Orioles are one out away from being eliminated.
Jeez Louise.
By the Royals.
And what, you got a game underway between the Mets and Milwaukee. And then obviously at 8:30 at ESPN2, you have Atlanta, San Diego, which the Padres right now lead that series 1-0.
That's too bad that the Braves are losing. I'm devastated, Angel. I don't know. We might have to have a prayer sermon for the Braves. Is Chris Sale pitching?
No, he's been scratched again.
Wait a minute, he's hurt?
Sure.
Really?
Yeah.
The sport was hurt because of that. The Braves tried to screw with baseball. And the odds are about to end their season. So good job by Michael King last night, Boston College kid, shutting them down and dusting off the Braves, finishing what the Mets started. But no, it's the Orioles here are learning that playoff baseball is hard. They just don't have enough pitching. They have a lot of guys hurt, and they should have traded for Jack Flaherty from the Tigers, which is amazing. I think the Tigers were sellers at the trade deadline, but they weren't. They gave about 5 or 6 players, and Jack Flaherty was the highlight of it. But they should have gone out and added a big time starting pitcher. It's over. The Royals just won.
Wow. Well,
Happy for Salvador Perez
yeah.
and a lot of the guys in this team. Obviously, Bobby Witt Jr. is incredible. He's probably the second best player in the American League. I think we all know who the best player in the league is, the center fielder for the Yankees. That mountain of a man, Mr. Judge. Now, the best player in the National League is Shohei Ohtani, but the most valuable player is Francisco Lindor. So there's two different analogies there. But no, it's amazing that you think that the Royals just imagine being the Minnesota Twins right now.
Yeah.
They blew their playoff spot to these two teams, and they both just won. It's crazy. They have so many good young players on the Royals, though.
That's the thing, though. You got you got 162 games throughout the season to be able to do so, right? Just like in the NFL, you have 60 minutes to win the game. Sometimes it only takes 44 seconds, as the Eagles had found out versus Atlanta. So, it's 162 is the start of the season, and when you get to August and September, the ones that I'm kind of and again, I know that Cardinals are in pretty much in different rebuilds, but Cardinals are probably one of the only teams that I can remember within the last decade that they could be teetering around fourth, maybe fifth, and then somehow or another just find a way from August, September to be able to get there in the postseason. Now, they haven't done it, within the last year or so, but they're a remarkable team.
Well, the 06 team beat my Mets. They had 83 wins with Adam Wainwright and Molina and Pujols and those guys. That was probably the best Mets team since the 86 team. And they beat us in Game 7 with Jeff Suppan, the starting pitcher. And, we had injuries with that team. Pedro was hurt. Tom Glavine was one of our best. Oliver Perez started Game 7. No, it was the Cardinals, their winning culture and environment, the Cardinal way, and always good. Incredible job by Bobby Witt Jr. and the Royals. Just amazing. I got two tablets here and figured that out. I'm watching the game here. So no, it's amazing. And what the Tigers did to the Astros. It's kind of like changing of the guard thing here.
Yeah.
To see and experience it, it's amazing. This is a good omen, by the way, for the Mets and the Padres.
It sure is. You figure, so you got what, Indians? Well, whatever.
Indians are playing the Tigers, and the Royals are going to the Yankees.
Yep, which that should be a really good series, I believe. In my opinion, it's going to be a really good series. But I don't go with this whole Guardians thing. Just keep them the Indians. Everybody knows them as the Cleveland Indians.
Oh, I know. That's just the stupidity of. I just talked about this with the racism and the political shaming of society. Archie Bunker and the Jeffersons wouldn't be on TV today. And that's people like Sammy Davis Jr. would go on Archie Bunker because they were friends with Carroll O'Connor and they wanted to have, hey, let's talk about it, the racial stuff. And even, lesser extent, obviously he's been in trouble, Bill Cosby show in the 80s, which I grew up on watching with Ahmad Rashad. I mean, I'm not Ahmad, Felicia Rashad, excuse me. Yep. Just give him Ahmad away. And, so many other shows. And that's one of the things that you rarely find. There's a lot of good shows on streaming and so forth, but shows like Ted Lasso and things like that, and Jack Reacher and some of the other stuff I watch, My business partner, Kathy, is a huge Friends fan. She used to watch it with her kids and reruns and so forth. So I just think it's really funny, just how different parts of society, obviously in the 90s, you had Seinfeld also, which was another one that everybody was into. But you just don't. Everything's politically correct and everybody gets offended. Real simple. If you get offended or don't like something, you don't have to watch.
Correct.
It doesn't, like one of the silliest things ever was Roseanne losing her show.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, the show's named after her. If you don't like it, don't watch it. You don't want to advertise it, don't advertise. So it's just, and I'm not a huge Roseanne fan. I'm just common sense. Imagine, if I said something stupid or pissed somebody off and they tried to take away Beav's World from me. It's like, why do you have? It's Beav's World. It's named after me. Correct. So it's like it's like going to Burger King and be offended that they have cheeseburgers. I mean, it's
Exactly.
like
That's
I
because
know
everybody, it's
ideas.
the oversensitive stuff really drives me crazy, especially when you have to, like, before when you told a joke, that was it. I mean, you had Red Skelton from way back in the day. Some people loved him, some people didn't. I appreciated him, and granted, it was before my time, but because you get to know all these different artists, comedians, everything else, that's what you appreciated. But now, every time you say something, there's got to be an explanation behind it, which makes no sense. But this is how you alter the world. Versus when we were growing up, the Jeffersons were just a riot. What's happening was a riot. Happy Days had its moments. Mork and Mindy, you name it.
Bob Hope.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just, but now you say something, let me explain myself, and it gets so old because there shouldn't be a whole bunch of explanation. If you tell a joke, you say the joke, that's it. For those who get it, they get it. For those who don't, it's like, oh my God, I'm so offended. Then why'd you listen?
It's already 1-0 Mets, by the way.
Oh, well, how about that? That was quick. Middle of the first?
Yep. Well,
Was it a
Pete
dinger?
Alonso just grounded out. So I think somebody hit a home run. I think somebody hit a home run for the Mets. No, they got 2 hits. So no, like the Bob Hope joke that it's pretty funny. But I just gave it away that I said Bob Hope told it. He would tell people, he'd go to talk to the military camps and their troops and say, hey, I identify as Jewish Arab. I want to kill myself. So and that's Bob Hope. So
Right.
it's because it's Bob Hope, you don't take it seriously. But if somebody like Dave Chappelle said that today, I'd be like, oh my God, unbelievable! I can't believe he said that. Oh,
Well, yeah. No, speaking of, it's funny how much they've jumped on Dave Chappelle, and like you cannot get a more raw person, minus Eddie Murphy back in the day. Which I mean, if people think that it's bad now, boy, listen to Delirious or even Raw for that matter. But Dave Chappelle, he's always
Richard
been-
Pryor too. Richard Pryor's another one.
Yep. But he's always been himself, and it makes me laugh. Where it's the same way too. Like even some comedians now, especially like after COVID, they come back and it's like, is it okay if I say this joke? What do you mean? You're a comedian. What do you mean you're asking the crowd? Is it okay to say? No, say the joke. That's the whole reason why you're getting paid. But some of these guys have just gone, yeah, go ahead. Some of these guys, if society has become a little bit too soft. I don't know how everybody feels. You guys can always text in. We got about 5 minutes left here on the show, 727-858-6650. But it's amazing to me how society continues to change. In some things, do you understand it? Yes. Some other things, it makes absolutely no sense. But it is the world that we live in. It's unfortunate, just like social media. It could be a blessing. It could also be a curse because everybody wants to be TikTok famous. And that to me makes no sense. I'm old school, so I don't worry about all that stuff. I'm not trying to be the first to, break the news about this, that, and the other. I'd rather be factual and find out everything that there is about the story than try and be the first one to jump out there and put something out there. Because once you do, Adam Schefter learned this the hard way. He tried to jump on a story, only come to find out. And that's when Tom Brady was retiring, only come to find out that he wasn't retiring. So, when it comes to a lot of this stuff here,
you would have loved working with me with that when that happened, Angel.
I'm quite sure because that stuff there, that drove me bananas when people were quick to make the jump on the gun for it, and then they all had egg on their faces because he was like, what? I didn't say I was retiring.
Yeah, someday when Tom wants to, he'll explain to you what happened, but I will not. So,
no, but it's all right. Listen, but the one thing I wanted to say when Rich was on with us, how interesting.
Awesome guest, by the way. Can't thank him enough. He was great.
He was. But how awesome would it be if you get Coach Belichick up there with TB in the booth for an entire game?
Of where would Bill be coaching?
No, not coaching, just up in the broadcast booth. He comes up
together.
Yeah. So he comes up, let's say for one segment coming up in the, before the half, and then he decides to hang out for
Marino just hit a home run for the Brewers.
Ooh.
Leading off the game, I believe.
1-1?
Yep.
Oh boy. Listen, I'm pretty sure Milwaukee does not want to go into that good night, but the Mets, they have that control. It can happen. What is it, bottom of the first?
Yep. Lead off home run. No, remember, Manaea got lit up. He gave up the grand slam to Rhys Hoskins the last time he pitched there last weekend.
Yeah.
Manaea might have problems pitching against Milwaukee.
Well, we'll see. Because you figure, so you got what? Then you would take it back up to New York?
No. If there's an elimination game, it's in Milwaukee. It's a 3-game series on the road. Okay, second ball, fly out to Nimmo. Nimmo caught the ball, so we're fine. The Torino kid's awesome. The Torino kid's awesome, so it's not like he's, like you give up a home run to Fred the janitor. This isn't. But I'm going to go name dropping. This isn't Buddy Biancalana.
The more I kind of think about it, I know we talked about it on Monday, but I think the more I think about it now, it would be, I think a Mets-Philly series would be a lot better than Phillies-Atlanta series. Just, again,
because you guys own the Braves, and the Braves don't have any pitchers.
No.
That's why they cheated. They don't have any pitchers left. Who's pitching tonight? Do they even know? Fried? Probably Max Fried.
I think so.
Okay, good. He's going to be at like a pitch count. He'll throw like 50 pitches, and he'll be done.
Yep, pretty much.
They can bring Shawlin back. He's not in sales. I mean, they started a AAA pitcher last night. I mean, I'm serious. They started a AAA pitcher. The guy, oh my God, Manaea is getting slapped around here. Contreras just got a hit. No, it's interesting here. No, I mean, obviously, you know how I feel. I think the Phillies, Mets would be good for baseball. I might want to point out 400 times in the series that the Mets let Zach Wheeler go.
Yep.
But and that was back when they were paying everybody. But no, it's because I love Zach Wheeler. You and I talked about the other night. But no, I think you guys were comfortably the best team in the National League, like the first 70 games. They kind of came back to earth, and we blew up. And the Braves had the year they did with all their injuries. But, it is what it is. And, I mean, we got to win this series, obviously. And, we'll see. But, Sean's going to figure things out. He'll be fine. But, no, I mean, the Mets had a ridiculous year. And just winning the game they did and hurting the Braves is like our own little World Series. Because that team has done some incredible damage to us. Historically over the years, the Piazza teams, just the 2 back-to-back years, just awful losses to them. And then they eliminated us in 01 and at the end of the year after the 9/11, obviously. And the Mets, people forget this. Shea Stadium was like ground zero for the relief efforts because it's right next to LaGuardia Airport.
Right.
And that was a big thing. The Yankees got mad, and there was a lot of stuff going on there. With the organization. Remember, this was when the Piazza Clemens thing was going on, and the whole Joe Torre conveniently forgets where he got his coaching start.
Yeah.
The Mets, and Joe Torre is one of the great frauds in the history of society. By the way, just what his image is and what he is completely 2 different things. But no, it is what it is, and congratulations to all the teams are in the playoffs because it's hard. It's hard making it this far. You and I are lucky. We support 2 teams that pretty much are trying to win consistently. You hired Dave Dombrowski. You ain't gonna mess around. If you're a farm hand player on the Phillies and Dave Dombrowski comes to town, lease, do not buy because he trades guys and he's trying to win. And the Mets are kind of in the middle ground here. They have a lot of their own guys that developed. Alonso's contract's up. I think it's 50-50 that he stays. But they've hit on a lot of their, mid-level free agent guys. And, Vientos is up, Alvarez is up, Nimmo's signed, Lindor signed long-term. Mets have a really good position here to be good for a long time.
I think so.
And obviously the Royals, too, is another one. The Tigers are kind of in between, and their owner is, his checkbook is his best friend. So we'll see what they do. But, it is what it is. But I'm excited. So quickly before we go, Angel, what do you think about the Thursday night game? Tampa Bay, Atlanta.
That's going to be a good one. I mean, both of them are playing right now. They're playing well. Atlanta is hanging around. I mean, they obviously they can end up taking a division as well. But right now, it's for Tampa to lose. I like Baker Mayfield in this one on a Thursday night. I know it's going to be a short rest. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But I do like the Bucs to win Thursday night.
I tend to agree with you. I think the Bucs kind of righted the ship on Sunday. They played really well again. I mean, your guys just completely no-showed. It was weird. They just don't play well against the Eagles, by the way. I mean, against the Bucs for whatever reason.
They don't. I don't know why, but maybe call it the Warren Sapp thing from back in the year. when he
Oh,
said
yeah.
brisk, brutal. We didn't care. And they went on to win the Super Bowl that year. So yeah, it's a tough one. But
That's
at least
right. They closed the vet, the Joel Dravicious Gruden thing. I forgot about that. Wow. That's
sure
crazy.
did.
It seemed like that's like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So over 20 years ago.
Yep. And then fast forward, I end up in Tampa 20 years plus later. So yeah, it's crazy how it comes around full circle.
How
But
do you, Angel, how do you like Tampa compared to Philly?
it's a lot more, it's busy, but a lot less stressful than in Philly. Philly, everything happens like this. It's all super quick. Tampa, not as much. And people tend to be a little more polite where they just, they don't go antsy. There are a lot of transplants that are coming down this way, especially after COVID. But I do appreciate and love Tampa. I mean, I'm never going to forget, as far as being from Philly, that's always going to be home in my heart. But Tampa is it's a lot of fun. Plus, you listen, you figure 91 until at least the third week of October. Then we get into the low 80s. We stay in the 80s all the way through Christmas. And then we don't hit the 70s until maybe mid-January till just about the end of February. And then we're right back in it again. So who's not going to love the warm weather throughout the wintertime here? I used to be jealous, and I know I have to end this because I have to start the basketball show up. But the one thing that what drive me nuts was at Christmas time, you would see the Bucks playing and everybody in shorts and t-shirts. And here, I'm snowbound the 100 yards. Like, are you freaking kidding me? Now I get to enjoy that as my friends say, boy, you guys suck down there. And then it was the same way. Come February, we're still in the thick of winter up north. And then I'm watching everybody come down here to Clearwater to enjoy the Phillies. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I get to enjoy it twice a year just as much. But yeah, no, I love it. I love Tampa.
It's awesome. Awesome, Angel. Hey, Angel, great show. I know you got to go do a good hoop. I'll be on with you Friday.
All righty. Let's thank to everyone who tuned in tonight from Rumble to Twitch to LinkedIn to YouTube, Facebook, and everywhere in between. Thank you guys very much. Don't forget, you can download the app and watch the replays on sr1029thegame.com as you see it up there on the screen. As Beav said, he'll be with me on Friday. Friday, by the way, we will have at 10:30 David Magley from the TBL, from the Basketball League and the Basketball Super League. So if you guys want to hear basketball throughout the morning, you can tune in then. And then at 11 o'clock when Beav joins me, David Murphy, our former 6ABC meteorologist from Philly, who absolutely loves the Phillies, will be on at 11 o'clock. So we'll be talking some Phillies talk. And who knows, if the Mets win tonight, we'll be talking more Mets come Friday. So thank you all. We appreciate it. Have a great night. And coming up next is Talking Hoops right here on the Coastal Sports Network.
Thanks, Angel.
You're welcome. All right, let me switch off. Come on. Do it later.